and welcome to another episode of the Dunker Spot. We are part of the Basketball News Podcast Network. I am your host, Nekias Duncan, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Steve Jones Jr. How are you, sir?
Doing well, doing great. Happy to be here. Excited. I want to shout out to all you dunkers out there. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you for embracing your bounce. Another episode with the man, the myth, the legend. Hashtag is big time, folks. It's also Mr. AVO. The hashtag is still Mr. AVO. In his off time, his spare time, he went to Atlanta again. You got a condo or you got a townhome?
I have neither, and I don't even know if it counts as being, that being in my time off. I went to Atlanta to cover the Hawks Heat game.
And you got the Hawks room temp game.
It's a bad bit. I did, in fact, get Udonis Haslam started at center.
I laughed.
I laughed.
You went all the way to Atlanta to watch Udonis Haslam start after destroying this man for the last 7 years.
Scored a singular point. Just a beautiful performance from the captain. But anyway, went to Atlanta, covered that game. Pretty much a dress rehearsal for the Hawks in that one. Wrote something on it about John Collins spending some time at the 5 in those lineups. You can check that out on basketballnews.com if you'd like. Quick plug. The season's here.
Season is here. It's time.
The season is here. As the NBA season gets ready to begin, the WNBA season just ended. Chicago Sky are your WNBA champions. From 16-16 to running through the W playoffs with not much resistance, honestly, which is not what I expected heading in. You called the Sky as a finals team pretty early on. And they got there. So props to you for that.
Thank you.
There we go. So 3-1 a 3-1 series win for the Sky. Game 4 was incredible. It was incredible. It was funny. It was jam-packed, filled with huge plays from both sides. We got peak Brittany Griner in that game. We got Candace Parker making big plays, making big shots. We got Courtney Vandersloot setting the table. Stephanie Dolson making clutch baskets. Diana Taurasi was on the court.
Wait a minute here, pal. We are covering a great WNBA Finals. And I was attempting to let your slander of both Stephanie Dolson and Diana Taurasi slide. This is a warning shot.
I mean, we can start right there if you like. Like, I don't feel like I was super unfair. Like, Stephanie Dolson came through for most of the series. And like we talked about on the last pod, some of the clutch shots and some of the clutch defensive plays that she's made throughout this postseason. She helped the Sky cap off it was a 26-11 fourth quarter in that game 4, but a 13-2 run, I believe, to close things out. Stephanie Dolson made timely baskets during that run. And I made the tweet during the game that it feels like everything Stephanie Dolson does on offense is an accident. Because like even the push shots that go in, they don't seem very fluid. Like some of the catches on rolls were kind of iffy, but like they went in. Like that's all that matters. She made the baskets.
I don't like that. Watch Stephanie Dolson screen 19 people on a possession and then seal like nobody's business.
She did.
Tough.
It's just the scoring portion, you know. And for Diana Taurasi,
we're not starting with Diana Taurasi. Let's talk about the Sky.
Okay, let's talk about the Sky. What impressed you the most about the Sky?
I mean, the mission they were on the entire run, they completed it. They rarely looked rattled, and it was a complete team effort. I think if you look at their top players, everyone had moments, and they all contributed in the closeout game. I mean, you look at what Candace Parker did in this finals. You know, you could sense it. You could see that she not only wanted it, but hey, it's time. Let's go get it. Mm-hmm. We talked about what Courtney Vandersloot did all playoff long, as far as just carving defenses up, no matter what you wanted to try and do. You want to hedge, you want to drop, whatever it is. I'm going to find and pick you apart. I'm going to pick my spots to score. Now you got a decision to make, and no one could ever figure that part out. Mm-hmm. Allie Quigley, I thought, was consistent. We all know what the MVP did, but I thought defensively, they executed at such a high level during this playoff run. And I thought Phoenix just couldn't solve the hard hedge issue. And I think the Sky's rotations were just amazing. I want to salute them for being that locked in on both ends of the floor. There was no style of play that they weren't ready for. Hey, we want to get out and run. That's not working. Half court. You guarded our set. We're going to keep grinding you. Oh, we also have talent. So it was just a championship run. You got to salute them for that.
It was very much a full team effort. And to your point, like in the closeout game, Kalia Copper finally had an off night. Finally had a game in which the jumper wasn't going. She was getting to the rim still, but wasn't necessarily getting to the line. And again, Candace picks up some of the scoring load there. Allie quickly hits big shots. Courtney Vandersloot hits big shots. The turnaround jumper to kind of cap off the run late in the fourth after the up fake was sick. Like people say or tweet, like, hey, I just jumped off my couch. I literally jumped off my couch on the fake. I was like, oh, this is nasty. And she finished the play. I wasn't in Chicago, and I hate that I wasn't, because I would have loved to have been in the arena. Because you could feel the energy through the television. Wintrust was rocking. So I would have loved to be in the building for that, but just, I don't know if there's anything. What can you even say about this Sky team, man? Like, it was just fun to watch them come together. It really was a great story for Candace to come home, cap things off, like getting emotional before the game even ended. Her being able to cap the game off with the last rebound, not only of the game, but of the season, being able to dribble it out. Like, it felt like a storybook ending there. And now it's just like, what do you do? Because this is a Chicago Sky team, again, dealt with injuries, dealt with adversity, was a 500 team heading into the postseason, and they figured it out. And so, like, if they were able to figure it out this late and win a title, now you head into the offseason doing what you did. Like, what does this team look like next season? Like, they have to have a ton of confidence. They're set up to bring back most, if not all, of their key pieces. Are they set up for a bit of a run here?
And they are. It's always a matchup game, but you know what they can do in the postseason in this format. You have to deal with them and take them out. And again, because of the depth they have, the talent they have, the different ways they can win, it makes it really difficult. And it was really fun to watch them not really figure it out, I would say, but just come together. Like, it just looked like on both ends of the floor, they always stayed poised. They always stayed confident. They took every shot. They bent, but they never broke. I was just really impressed, and it was fun to watch them just swarm on both ends of the floor.
Game 4 in particular was a fun one to watch them try to figure out defensively, because I mentioned earlier, Brittany Griner absolutely ate their lunch for at least for the first 3 quarters. And they kind of flow between, all right, we're going to send doubles. Okay, we're going to go with single coverage. Let's make sure we keep the defense out of rotation. And it almost didn't matter. If they did hedge, Brittany Griner was able to kind of slip in that, knock down some 16, 17-foot jumpers. If it was single coverage, Stephanie Doser had her hands full. Azurá Stevens had her hand full. When Candace Parker got the assignment, she also had her hands full. So, like, trying to figure out how they wanted to defend her was a fun game within the game, but they ultimately figured it out. They were able to force misses at the right time. They were able to force turnovers at the right time. They were, especially once they went on that massive run in the fourth quarter, they were able to speed the mercury up in a way that they did not want to be sped up. And they were able to capitalize on just about every opportunity after that. So I'm very much impressed with the resiliency of the group, the problem-solving nature of this team. Like, James Wade, the head coach, deserves a ton of credit for pushing the right buttons throughout this season. Again, he had a lot to navigate in terms of lineups, just trying to get these ladies to gel, just because of some of the lack of continuity early in the season. But he was able to push the right buttons, get into the postseason, was able to figure out how to flow in the half court. When he had to draw for play, he did so. Just a heck of a run from the Chicago Sky.
And salute to the Mercury before you go into your points, I'll say, for making that run towards the finals and getting there as well. It just felt like a series where they just couldn't necessarily find that last piece to overcome and push to the next level. They had talent, The shot making wasn't there sometimes. Defense wasn't always there. Just couldn't necessarily put it all together. But I thought it was a heck of a run from a talented team that had question marks around them coming into the postseason, and not only figured it out, but made a real push out of it. So salute to them. Let's hear the Nekias agenda.
The Nekias agenda. Wow. Like, one, props to the Mercury, who knocked off my aces in the last round. Kind of, hurts a little bit. But no,
you see the agenda.
Oh, brother. In all seriousness, it was a great run. Like, the Sky did out execute and out talent them. The Mercury just kind of got to a point to where they ran out of bodies on the bench due to injury. So that obviously hurt. And with one of the members of the Big Three, like Diana Taurasi, was playing hurt. And like, that is important context to add. I don't know if there's an agenda at play. Contrary to popular belief, I will say that Diana Taurasi had an interesting series. And she had an interesting game 4 in particular, in which she did not shoot well. But for me, it's less about Diana having a subpar game 4 and more about her having the subpar game 4 while also acting the way that she did. Like, I don't really want to see ref complaints while playing poorly. Like, what was it, 3 fouls in the first half, a tech early on top of shooting poorly. And this is all, and the backdrop of all this is her getting like the GOAT ball before the series started. And for her to cap off the series like this, I just say, like, the optics weren't great. That doesn't take away who she is and what she means to the W. Doesn't take away from her resume, obviously. But like, it was a lot going on there. I don't know if that's agenda talk, but like, that there was just a lot going on there.
You went in a way different direction. I thought you were going to. I think she just would have done that even if she was making the shots. It's just kind of what she does.
Yeah. It just, got to have the results to come with it. And again, like, this is someone that's won before. It's not like she had anything to prove, but it was just funny to watch. That's all.
Any other thoughts before we get to your beloved Hawks?
To my beloved Hawks. Wow. No, not right now. Not right now. Props to the Sky. Great run by the Mercury. This is a really fun WNBA season at large. I had a lot of fun watching games, integrating myself more into the online WNBA community. Just fun. Shout out to everyone that made that space a fun one, an informative one, a safe one. If you aren't a WNBA fan, it's not too late for you. Like, please jump in, pick a team. Plenty of W writers write preseason pieces like, hey, if you're trying to choose a team, this is how you should go about it. So like, those pieces are out there. Jump in while you can. It's a lot of fun.
Please keep putting these games on TV.
Yes.
So that more people can see them, because you notice this season, a lot of times games are watched, I guess what they like to call as a family. Put them on TV. People will watch. Let it grow.
Yeah. It's always funny watching those graphics pop up like, hey, this is the most watched playoff game, most watched finals game since X year. Viewership is up 20+% or whatever. And it's like, you put the games on TV and people watch them. And then more people carry over because they watched the game and now they want to watch another one. It's funny how exposure works. So if we keep that going, the league should continue to grow. And this will be a lot more fun for everyone. So, important thing to note. Let's move on to the Southeast Division, our last division in the preview. We're starting with Atlanta, because Atlanta starts with an A. So therefore, we're going with them first. You seem like you have something you want to say. Is there something that you would like to add?
No, I'm excited to talk about the Hawks. I do like the Hawks' chances this season. And I like what I saw in the preseason. And there is no bone to pick here.
No bone. Okay.
We're both grown. Let's give it up for Atlanta's very own.
I hate it here. Oh my goodness. Anyway, the Hawks were the 5th seed last year, 41-31 record. They were 9th in offense, 18th in defense. Not much roster turnover this offseason. They added DeLon Wright, they added Gorgie Jang. Tony Snell is out, if we care about that. Nathan Knight is now in Minnesota. What's your biggest question mark about this Hawks team heading into the year?
Well, this is the type of team where the first question mark would be, can they do it again? I think we've talked about it during these preview sessions. Hey, can this team repeat it when they're going from the hunter to the hunted? Can they repeat their success? I don't actually have that concern with this Atlanta Hawk team. And this looks like a team that is confident and is ready to take another step after last year. And it looks like all these guys know exactly what their role is and are perfectly okay executing it. And that makes a big difference for this team. So if you're asking what my biggest question is, I guess consistency defensively, and then maybe lineups. You have a lot of talent in there. Do you have enough room to make sure everyone can grow? What's going to be your best lineup? How much are you going to go with Collins at the 5? What's your wing rotation going to look like? How much Lou Will do we get in the regular season? Is him and Gallo going to be playoff type? Like it's those kind of little things with the Hawks. But as far as the base goes and the continuity, and I think all these guys feeling a little bit better about their situations, I think that plays a big role because they've had success. They know they can have success, and they know the opportunities are there for them. So I think the sky's the limit for the Hawks right now.
The sky's the limit for the Hawks. I like it. I think the rotation is kind of my biggest thing with this Hawks team. Like that and health, which is honestly, health is the backdrop for every team at a certain point. But like I mentioned a little bit earlier, like there wasn't much roster turnover for this Hawks team from last season to this year. But it also kind of feels like it's a new team just because they have so many bodies now. Like you're going to get more Cam Reddish, I would imagine. Clint Capella had the early surgery, this offseason, but like Clint Capella's back. We're going to see more Danilo Gallinari. So like this is a team that legitimately goes 11 or 12 deep with NBA players. And that's before getting into like, going to the draft. Like I love Jalen Johnson. I love Sharif Cooper, who should not be on a 2-way deal right now. But that just shows you like how much talent is on this roster. So I think how Nate McMillan, how he handles the rotation is going to go a long way to figure determining how well this team is going to perform during the regular season, at least. I was present for the Zooms for Media Day, and someone asked him about how he planned on handling the depth, and he did mention that this team is deep enough for him to roll out some all bench lineups and keep guys fresh that way.
How do we feel about that? Because if I recall correctly, someone, not sure who, was upset with the all bench lineup in the postseason. I tried to make a point about it. Got our podcast docked 4 points review wise. So just curious to see what the growth is, the mindset shift as we enter into a new season with that.
The mindset shift. Wow. I would say I'm not a fan of it. I understand why. This is a very deep group. Again, I'm very much team stagger when it comes to stuff like this. So I don't necessarily want to see an all bench lineup. But also if your bench includes Danilo Gallinari and Lou Williams and Cam Reddish and Onyeka Okongwu and Kevin Huerter, like you have starter caliber players on your bench. So like I definitely understand McMillan being like, okay, cool. Not only want to keep our main 5 fresh, we're going to get all these guys minutes because they're good enough to warrant minutes. And we can just completely change the tone of games with this group. And then just blitz you with our starters afterwards. So like I get it. Again, with a team this deep, I want to know what the all bench lineup is going to be. Like sometimes it could be Lou Williams and Kevin Huerter. Sometimes it could be DeLon Wright and Lou Williams. Sometimes it could be DeLon Wright and Kevin Huerter. Like I just want to see how he's going to piece these lineups together. I think from a talent perspective, I don't really have many questions about this Hawks team. Like they have their star in Trae Young, who isn't that far from superstardom, in my opinion. Like they have their number two in John Collins. They have plenty of secondary shot creation. They have Bogdanovich. They have Herter again. DeAndre Hunter last season, it was injury riddled for him, but he showcased some pick and roll chops. He showcased, the ability to beat closeouts. He can still knock down shots. So they have a lot there. It's just going to be about building chemistry with these lineups for me.
All right, so the rotation is interesting. I think that big man lineup, that big man room is crowded. That's going to be interesting how that manages out, especially once Okongwu comes back because he was on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have obviously Capella, and you also have Gorgui Dieng, and the potential to pay Collins the 5. So there's a lot of different options. I think there's more lineup versatility. It's just going to be, can you hit the right buttons? Can you keep everyone engaged? Can you maintain the buy-in that you've gotten? I do like the DeLon Wright signing, just to make sure you keep Trae Young fresh and as someone who can run a bench lineup. What do you need to see from Trae Young this season? Because we talked about him a lot last year on the pod and the ups and downs he had, and then he took off. Is there anything you need to see from him this year?
I think it's, let's see how real the trust is with him when he gives the ball up. Because I think that was one of the subtle shifts of the second half of the year. Like he didn't mind getting off the ball and letting Bogdanovich run a ball screen or just letting the action flow elsewhere. We talked about it a little bit during the postseason where Nate McMillan threw out some Trae Young, Lou Williams minutes together, and Trae let Lou cook some. So like continue to see the maturity there. For Trae individually, one of the things he mentioned during media days that he wanted to add to like his mid-range package. He wanted to get a little bit better with the pull-up, add to the floater, have more counters there. So if he's able to mix that in more, he becomes a more dangerous scorer. You already have to worry about him on all three levels. If he's more comfortable in the mid-range area, that just gives him another counter come playoff team. So that's something I want to see. Defensively, I like some of what I saw from him last year during the postseason in particular. The effort was there when he was off ball, like showing help at the nail, some timely digs, some aggressive digs, rotating correctly, keeping that up. Because just from a physical standpoint, there's only so much he can do to be an actual deterrence. So if he can nail some of the margin stuff, that makes him less of a liability, and that helps the Hawks team. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. Mid-range stuff, some growth around the margins defensively. I'd like to see the three ball normalize from him, because I think you look at his raw 3-point percentage, it's kind of lower than what you expect from a guy that can shoot the way that he can. Like some of that is just shot selection. He takes a lot of deep threes. So with the amount of talent that he has around him, maybe he gets some easier looks. The percentages go up. We see a more efficient Trae.
Got it. DeAndre Hunter, what's his next step? Or is it just be healthy?
Honestly, it's just be healthy, for me at least. We know he can shoot. We know he can defend. Can particularly defend like those power wings, those kind of forwards. Again, he showcased some pick and roll chops last season. So like I have seen what he can do. It's just how available is he going to be to do so? And so if I get, we get 65, 70 games out of DeAndre Hunter, I'm feeling pretty good.
I want to see the consistency. Like, what's the one thing he brings to the table on the offensive end? Just want to see if there's one thing. Is it going to be driving closeouts? Is it going to be a jack of all trades type deal? Is it be an improved jumper? So I want to see if there's one thing he can develop on that end of the floor. John Collins, do you feel better about him?
I do feel better about him. We know what he provides as a roller, violent roller. We know what he brings as a rebounder. I think the shooting is pretty real at this point. A legitimate weapon above the break, solid in the corners. So he gives you that pick and roll and pick and pop versatility offensively. Defensively, we saw some legitimate growth during the postseason. Like his work in the Philadelphia series really opened my eyes, because he was not getting number 2 optional offense treatment during that series against Philadelphia. But he found ways. He crashed the glass timely, but on the defensive end, defending Tobias Harris, defending Ben Simmons, had some time at the 5 and held his own there. We talked about a little bit at the top of the show. I was in Atlanta for the Heat Hawks game, in which the Heat didn't play really anybody. So like, there's only so much you could take from it. But just in terms of how he rotated, how he defended in the drop, the activity level defensively, like it was all there for him, particularly when the Hawks went to those lineups with him at the 5. And so if he can hold his own at the 5, like the offensive benefits are very obvious. Like a spread pick and roll attack with him and Trey, with him at the 5, you can't defend it. You just can't. The real question is, can he hold his own and help the Hawks get enough stops at the 5? And if he's showcasing more comfort in space and at the rim as a primary rim protector as opposed to like a weak side guy, then he can take another step. The contract looks better. The Hawks are a better team.
Are you falling for the Cam Reddish pump fake, or is that just me?
The shot looked good during preseason, man. The shot looked good. Like I actually had a Cam Reddish question for you. Like what do you want to see from him more offensively? Do you want to see the jumper normalize, or do you want to see him have a little bit more juice as a downhill threat?
I just want to see this aggression keep up. From the Milwaukee series to the preseason, he's had a different mindset offensively as far as going to get a basket. Now, does it always look pretty and beautiful? No. Is it forced sometimes? Absolutely. But if he's got the shot going, he's got the mindset to shoot and score, and now he's mixing in those drives, and I almost said he's a bucket. That would have been obnoxious. But if he's someone you can count on offensively to score off the bench for the ways he has shown of recent, that's a big weapon for the Hawks. And that's someone who can really boost that bench lineup or boost those small lineups. Mm-hmm. And I think more importantly, I was impressed by the defense. I talked about in the playoffs, the defense, what he showed on that end. I mean, it wasn't always a fair fight, but he was willing to get down and go after it. So if he's going to develop into two-way-ish scoring threat, you get yourself a check that way.
Yeah. And like, this is one of the things that stood out with Cam early during his rookie season. You know, the first half of the rookie season, he could not hit literally anything. Awful three-point shooter, could not finish at the rim, but the defense was strong. Second half of his rookie season comes, he's shooting like 40% from three. He's finishing better, and the defense continued to be strong. You know, heading into this season, or going back to last season, like the defense was strong. You just couldn't stay healthy. The shot was up and down. So for me, I just want something to normalize with him. Like it's similar to your DeAndre Hunter point. Like I want him to be consistently good at something, because we've seen flashes of everything. We've seen him have the stretch. You know, we've seen a month-long stretch where he shot very well from three. We've seen him be aggressive and be comfortable getting downhill, get to the rim. We've seen some passing chops from him. Like he's a guy that can run a ball screen for you on the second side. I want something to be consistent, something that he can branch off of. Because right now it's, hey, Cam got to the rim okay this game, or hey, Cam hit 3 threes today. And it's never just Cam's doing what he does and then he added something else. So like he just needs to find that something that's going to keep him in the lineup offense, because defensively, I don't have many doubts about him at all. Like he is a very versatile and strong on-ball defender.
What's their best small lineup with Collins at the 5?
Best small lineup with Collins at the 5. I would say is Trey. I'd say Trey, Herter, Cam, Hunter, and Collins.
I'm putting Bogey in there.
Okay, that's fair.
I think that's a tough lineup on paper. Watch it be like Trey, Lou, Will, Bogey, Danilo.
Probably just go full spacer and free throw griff lineup. I respect it. Oh man, that would be if you got to defend Trey, Lou, and Gallo and try to keep all three of those guys off the line, you know how annoying that would be?
See, that's why I can never get another check, because if I was an assistant, I would just tap Nate and be like, hey, put that lineup in. They're in the bonus. Just put those three out there.
Yeah, that's just it. that is just it. The game is going to come to a screeching halt. I think I have another question for you. Do you see them going with any jumbo lineups at all?
Two bigs?
Yeah.
Does Danilo count as in a jumbo? I just think they have too many 2s and 3s to not move them over lineup wise, if that makes sense. So I don't know how much we'll get. Like, I mean, what are you gonna do? Capella and Gorgie?
I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
But like, if you go Capella, Collins, Gallo,
I'm sure
and Herder,
I'm sure we'll see that. I think those three we'll see.
But
I don't know if they go double big.
I guess we'll see. Speaking of Herder, how do you feel about the contract extension for him? $465.
I think shooting gets you paid. I think what he showcased in that series got him paid. And I mean, that's pretty fair market value in a sense. You got that size, shooting ability, play a little defense, you're probably going to get that. So I think it's more they just didn't want to lose him. Yeah. Somebody was going to take him. Like, I think that's been the biggest theme to me this offseason. It's just, hey, let's keep our guys, and then if we need to move, we can move them, as opposed to, what do we do? We lost Kevin Herter. Wait, Cam Reddish gone. Wait, everyone's gone.
And that's not the issue you want to have with this Hawks thing. Like, we close on the Hawks on this. Like, one thing I'm just tracking, and this is something that I've touched on the pod before, and even offline. They just seem so primed for a consolidation move at some point because they have so much depth. It just would not shock me to see the Hawks name floated out there if, like, there's a star level talent that decides they want out of a situation they don't want to be in. There's just too much for them to not be in that conversation.
Now I'm going to ask one question.
Okay.
Do they need it as much as you may have felt they did before?
No, I don't think so. Because again, like, their foundation is strong enough. They have their star, and they have enough intriguing young talent that could theoretically pop for you to where they don't need to make a star move. But again, this is a team that goes 11, 12 deep. So, like, if they do want a better number 2 scoring option alongside Trey, then, like, yeah, if I'm Travis Schlenk, I'm absolutely monitoring what happens in Washington, for example. That is just something for them to keep an eye on, because they have so many, I don't want to call human beings assets, but like, they have a lot of trade pieces if they want to go that route.
No, I hear you. I think it's going to be important for them to get off to a good start and continue to build on that momentum and kind of take off. They don't need to get back into quote unquote purgatory or any of that. They need to get off running and validate what they did last season.
You're right. Speaking of a team that wants to get off running, let's move to the Charlotte Hornets, a team that is incredibly fun to watch in transition. Weren't very good offensively, oddly enough. 33-39 record last year. They were 23rd in offense, 16th in defense. Shout out to their zone in every variation of zone that they ran last year. Kelly Oubre is in the fray now. Mason Plumlee is here. Ish Smith is here. Devontae Graham is gone. Cody Zeller is gone. Malik Monk is gone. The locker room presence, Bismack Biyombo, also gone. So my first question for you as it pertains to the Charlotte Hornets is, what are they going to do defensively this year?
I think you expect some more activity. I think you'll see a lot more of what you saw last year as far as the activity goes, the rotation goes, the effort goes, trying to mix in the zones, trying to hopefully be better and more consistent on that end. It'll be very interesting to see how they handle the activity level without Zeller, who could do multiple things. Not that Mace can't, but it's different. You know, he's usually a guy who, if I do this, I'm going to do this very well. But if I get in between, I might get mixed results. So I would not be surprised if they're active. I don't know if they turn it down a notch and try and be more solid, if that helps them. Because that's the yin yang. Their activity gave them a shot, but it also put them in danger a lot of times. So how do you keep the good parts without sacrificing that? Because if you lose the effort and you're not a good defensive team, it's not really the best combo. So I think we'll see more activity based on what they've done. Can the zone work? How much zone do they run? How much small lineups do they run? Do they go more switching? There's a lot of questions, but defensively, I expect them to be a little bit better just with another year under their belt.
I just find myself concerned about defense because they had to get super creative. And again, like they ran more zone than anyone last year, which is a hard thing to do in a league with Eric Spoelstra and Nick Nurse. For you to not only lead the league in zone possessions and to do so without it really being close, it's a little bit problematic for me, the way they had to lean on it to the degree that they did. And so I get the case with another year of experience. You add some more athletes to the wing, like it could be better. I worry about it going the other way, in which teams now have film on it. And while the Hornets made some additions, again, Kelly Oubre should help the perimeter defense, as an example. The defensive personnel overall still isn't very good. And so this is a team that gave up a lot of threes last year by virtue of playing as much zone as they did. If teams kind of bomb away from three, I don't know what this team does. Because them finishing 16th in defense last year was kind of an upset based on the shots that they gave up and just how creative they had to get defensively to patch that together.
So you're worried about the zone?
I am worried about the zone.
See, I'm worried about the rotations. That's my concern with them. It's a defense based on activity and being able to double team, be able to be active in pick and roll, being able to do multiple things. And will they have the rotations behind it? Because if they don't, they're going to be cooked. So as much as just, hey, the film is going to be out there, if they legitimately just can't do that piece of it, it's going to be rough. They're going to have some rough nights. So I want to see if they can stay as locked in as they were last year. Because even when they got beat last year, it was at least somewhat sound. If they're just flying all over the place with no purpose or no execution, it's going to be rough. And then you have to lean on the zone. Like you want the zone to be a piece of your attack. You want it to be a plus. But if you're just kind of moving back to a drop with Mason Plumlee to kind of tamper down the activity, but you're also active in different ways, like just they got to put the puzzle together in my eyes.
It's going to be a fun balance to try to strike. That James Borrego has his work cut out for him. LaMelo Ball is the young star of this team. What's the next step for him in your eyes?
I just want to see more. I don't want to say consistency, but more. Not playmaking is not the word I'm looking for. He makes really good reads in pick and roll, but does he have necessarily the second level plays in that mid-range area against a drop? Or is it always going to have to be a highlight pass, or is it going to have to be a floater? Can he take the next step and become a guy who has multiple pitches in pick and roll? Because I'd say, why wouldn't you just play a drop against them and hope for the best? And now you stay at home. The kickouts aren't the same. Mm-hmm. And he's still a wizard. Like he's still going to make the plays, but can he evolve towards that? Can he make the same plays can he grow in that area to where it's not necessarily home run or bust? Can he just get more singles and put pressure on you that way?
Okay, makes sense. I think I want to see what the next step for LaMelo the scorer is. So I'm kind of on the same page with you in that regard. One of the more encouraging things I saw from LaMelo during the second half of the season, before he got hurt at least, was like he was starting to nail some of the subtleties of driving in getting to the free throw line. Some of the extend the arm out on the drive, get a guy to whack the arm, get to the line. Some of the Harden type stuff that he was just flat out bad at early in the season. He grew in that grade. So I think I want to see what LaMelo looks like as a downhill threat if I want to pare it down. I would like to see more free throws, but ultimately, like, he has to figure out the finishing in the half court. Like, he's not a super physical guy right now. Like, there's still a lot of strength for him to gain. This is one of the things he talked about during the Hornets media day, that he spent a lot of time with lifting weights. It's a cliche thing you hear from players all the time after the offseason. But
muscle watch.
hashtag muscle watch. 15 pounds of muscle, that's what everyone says. But in all seriousness, like, that is one of the things that he said very early on when he was getting interviewed. Like, hey, I've saw the need to get stronger. I did put in that work. I have added some pounds of muscle. So we'll see how that translates to him as a finisher. Because what we saw in his rookie year, like, there was a lot of those floaters. The footwork was kind of wonky on some of them, but like, he had the floater. But if he had to get all the way to the paint, not an explosive vertical athlete, not a guy that was great at absorbing contact and trying to finish through. There were a lot of tougher finishes that he needed to have, like just a lot of double clutch stuff, some off the wrong foot, wrong hand type stuff. So, like, just improving the finishing craft, getting stronger, I think that'll make life a little bit easier for him and for everyone. Because if he gets to the point to where he's drawing extra attention as a driver, we know he has every pass in the book. The kickouts are going to be a lot easier from there if he's drawing extra attention. So that's kind of where I'm at with him.
You bring up a point that makes me think, why wouldn't you just switch? Just gonna switch you, keep you in front. You don't have the same kickouts. Mm-hmm. Now you're gonna have to drive and kick. And we're gonna take away the rhythm that you guys have offensively.
Mm-hmm. And that's gonna put more of an emphasis on the pull-up for him, which, to his credit, was better than we anticipated, or better than I anticipated in year one. But I don't think that's a bread and butter part for him right now. Like, he's not obviously he's not like a Steph level pull-up shooter from deep. He's not a Chris Paul level pull-up shooter from two. So, like, I'm kind of with you. Like, I would, like, switching should be effective for defenses against him right now until he can prove that, I can just get 2 feet in the paint if you want to switch. Or if he does get a little bit more craft in the intermediate area, like if he does get a more consistent floater, or if he just has a regular pull-up jumper at the elbow, if he gets more comfortable with either of those things, he becomes more dangerous.
No, yeah, I'm interested in seeing how defenses treat him. They know that he can make the passes. Do they not give him the reads? Do they take away some of the space that way? Do they make it a little bit difficult on him to get the automatics? Can he finish through contact consistently? It'll be interesting to watch, because it can get hairy sometimes if you don't have necessarily the automatic reads. You may not have the same rollers, the same lineups that you had last year to maybe boost due to the injury. So neither here nor there. Still pretty good.
Still pretty good indeed. Where are you at on PJ Washington, excuse me?
PJ Tucker's in Miami.
We'll get to him later. But where are you on PJ Washington?
Still intrigued to see if he can consistently get minutes at the 5 and make it work. I think that way he can really pop, screen, roll, space the floor. I like that a little bit better than the 4, but I thought he showed flashes last year as far as the growth offensively. Defensively, I think he needs to be a little bit better. He's got to be an activity guy, but I think he's a guy who can screen, roll, slip, attack. And if he improves his help defense, if he improves the rotations, being able to protect the rim, both at the 4 and the 5, maybe doing a little bit of switching. I like the bounciness and the activity he has. I like the aggression in the post, but now can you put it all together? Because he's not necessarily going to be a quote unquote featured guy, but he's a guy who's going to be relied on and depended on. So can you create your own havoc on both ends of the floor and make an impact?
I think he's the swing guy for me on this team. Like, I don't even think he's the second best player on the team. Like, I think it's Gordon Hayward and LaMelo Ball in some order as your top 2, and PJ's 3 at best, depending on how you feel about Miles Bridges, and we'll talk about him shortly. But I think he's the swing piece because he's the guy that's going to connect a lot of I forgot Terry Rozier.
That Terry
But
Rozier
yeah,
slander?
nah. See, I just blanked on Terry Rozier.
Check his age real quick.
Oh, come on. Rozier has to be what, 26, somewhere in there. At any rate, Washington is the swing piece for me. Because if he can hold his own at the 5, then I feel a lot better about the Hornets center room. Because right now it's Mason Plumlee, who is a downgrade from Cody Zeller when healthy. And then what exactly?
I'm surprised you're not hyped for Kai Jones.
I like Kai Jones, the prospect, a lot. Kai Jones is not a year one contributor on a potential playoff team. He's just not. He's just too.
That's a hot take.
I don't think that's a hot. He's just too raw right now. Like, I am very much going to be standing Kai Jones in year 2 and year 3, but I would expect him to get some G League minutes this year to kick things off. Like, he just has to learn how to play basketball right now.
I thought you were gonna go Claxton 2.0 here. Shocked.
We're a year away from Claxton 2.0. I love the Kai Jones pick. But loving the Kai Jones pick, and Kai Jones is going to be a positive guy you can throw 18 minutes a night in year 1. I can't get there. Objectively cannot get there.
We are noticing a shift, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't think it's a shift.
I have made Nekias old and musty.
I don't like this narrative at all. But anyway, it's Plumlee. It's not Kai Jones. Vernon Carey Jr., Nick Richards. I don't like any of that. So, like, PJ Washington kind of has to be your backup 5 by default. And I would imagine he's going to be the closing 5. And so, to the Hornets' credit, like, they were a slight positive in terms of net rating in the lineups in which Washington was the lone big last year. The offense was very good. The defense was very bad. So, to your point, a lot of that's going to boil down to Washington being able to protect the rim. Because right now, I think his most valuable, scheme right now is switching. Just because he is a mobile guy, he can kind of keep things in front for the most part. I don't trust him in drop right now. So I need to see a step from him defensively. Because offensively, I think he has everything you want. Like, he very much can shoot the basketball. He has enough ball skills to attack a closeout. When he's at the 4 in particular, like, he has enough aggression, enough physicality to kind of bully smaller guys. So, like, that's there. Not the most efficient thing, but he does have comfort doing that. But when he's at the 5, again, the shooting matters a little bit more when he's pulling a giant out of the paint. If you're sending 2 to the ball against LaMelo because he has the pull-up going, like, PJ Washington has shown the ability to pick out guys in the short roll. He needs to get better at it. I would say he's a sound decision maker, but not a good passer yet, because the placement is just off for him a lot when he is making those reads to the corner. So just growth in the margins, and really just growth everywhere defensively. Like, he needs to be more of an interior presence to make that work.
I'm going to say something insane before I move on to Gordon Hayward.
Okay.
Am I wrong for being excited to see a lineup off the bench early in a second quarter that has PJ Washington, Jalen McDaniels, Kelly Oubre, Cody Martin, and Ish Smith?
I think you're the only person I know that is excited for that lineup. However, I like this Ish Smith signing for the Hornets. I do. Also, I love that you're excited to see this McDaniels, but not the other one. But that's a whole nother podcast. It's fine.
I like both McDaniels. I think they're both great. We just talk about the Wolves in like every 2 podcasts. It's a lot.
It's not enough.
Ish Smith produces everywhere he goes. Like, I feel like he's just taking his same role and just going to Charlotte, do the same thing, swing a game here real quick with a couple floaters.
Or reliable, still one of the fastest players in the league. It's incredible he's able to keep this going as long as he has.
Gordon Hayward, is he going to pick up where he left off and shake all the haters off?
No to the latter part, but I do think he's I do think he's good enough to pick up where he left off, because last season before he got hurt, he looked very good. Gave the Hornets a brand of not just 3-level scoring, but in particular the half court scoring that they needed. because the Hornets were very much a turbocharged team that wanted to push in transition, knock down threes, get some highlight dunks, toss some lobs. And when things slowed down, it was a lot of Rozier pull up, a lot of Devontae Graham pull up. Gordon Hayward was the guy that kind of threaded the needle there. It's like, okay, I can get to at least the intermediate area, if not all the way down to the rim. I can get to the free throw line when necessary. I can slow things down, get you a tough bucket. So Gordon Hayward is still slated to be that guy for the Hornets if he's able to stay healthy, which is the biggest question mark. It's the second biggest question mark surrounding Gordon Hayward. The first one will not be discussed on this podcast. If he's able to stay healthy, then he's going to be a boost for this Hornets offense.
I like Gordon Hayward for this team because they need him in those clutch moments, those fourth quarter moments. I think him and Rozier two-man game has value still. It'll be interesting to see if he uses a screener for LaMelo as well, if they want to attack that. But I think still being able to score and mainly having the aggression. I want to see if he continues to be aggressive coming back from another injury, or does it take him time to settle in, because that's a different Gordon Hayward than the one we saw last season before he was done. So I want to see what he does. I want to see what Terry Rozier does. Does he have another step to take, or is just this it? Or is it just going to be buckets now?
I need to see if the shooting for Terry Rozier is sustainable. Like, I know he can shoot, but for him to shoot as well as he did last year on the shot diet that he did is kind of where I'm like, wait, is Terry Rozier this? So I like
the direct deposit says so.
The Hornets sure hope so. But like, that's what I'm eyeing with Terry Rozier. Also, like, I would like for him to firmly be a good point of attack defender because the Hornets need it. And like, we've seen it in spots in Charlotte. We saw it in spots in Boston. I would like for him to just be that guy so I'd feel a little bit better about Charlotte's defense. So that would be cool.
I think he has it, but I think he cashed in some of those chips to get that jumper going.
Does he have his receipt?
No. Crumbled that right up.
Well, fair enough. Got him paid. He's good. So fair enough.
Is this a home for Kelly Oubre?
In theory, yeah. Because like the Hornets want to run, and if they are going to play zone, like he can work at the top of a zone. Just that level of athleticism, the length, the activity up top. Like, this seems to be a natural fit for him. And like, he's not gonna have to make a bunch of reads on offense either. Like, this is even in the half court, like, it's gonna be spot up or cut. Like, he doesn't have to worry about the handbacks with Steph Curry that he just botched for like 2 months.
That's where I think this is a better spot for him. More freedom to just go be Kelly Oubre and not have to think.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that it can't, but there are some guys who just need space to roam. Go do what you do. And those plays that they didn't make will just all of a sudden come, as opposed to feeling kind of boxed in. So I want to see, how does he do with more freedom in this system with movement, transition, pace, attack? Does he show some movement off dribble handoffs? What does he do? Does he attack closeouts? Does he make more shots? So I'm interested to see how he contributes on both ends of the floor, but because they need him to be very good off that bench and to be someone who can kind of bridge some different lineups out there for them.
Speaking of bridging lineups, how excited are you for Miles Bridges this year? Because that dude showed some stuff last year.
It sounds like you're very excited.
I am very excited for Miles Bridges. First and foremost, that dude could rap. Second, aside from like the violent dunks, the 3-ball stabilized last year. I did not know that he could pass the way that he did until I started watching him more closely last year. He has legit passing jobs that I want to see explored a little bit more. Defensively, has the size, has the athleticism to defend both forward spots. I want to see a little bit more consistency there. But this is a big year for him. Did not agree to a contract extension before the deadline on Monday. So contract year for him. Can hit restricted free agency this coming summer. I want to see what the next step for him is. Like, I want to see Is he going to continue to feel kind of that jack of all trades role coming off the bench? Does he eventually start? Like, what I wonder what the next step for him is, because he can do a little bit of everything.
How much do you want him to be a roller? How much do you want him to be a guy who handles? Which space do you think he needs to occupy more, or is it a combination of both that helps him pop?
I think he's still slated to come off the bench. Like, I think the combination of both is what makes him valuable. He can just kind of fill in whenever needs to be filled. For him, like, I always lean towards, hey, give him the ball and let him do stuff. Like, let's see what he can do. So, like, when I see the kind of passing flashes that he showcased last year, I'm inclined to be like, hey, let's let him run like 3 ball screens a game and see what that looks like. Can that 3 turn into 5? And if you can trust him with 5, is there more to Miles Bridges than even the Hornets thought? Right? Like, that's just kind of how my mind works when it comes to those wing type forward type guys that have like some ball skills to work with. Because again, like, the play finishing stuff, we know who he is. Like, the guy can shoot and he can dunk on anyone and their mothers. We know he can do that. But if this dude can legit pass and he already has a rudimentary enough handle to be the closeout, like, what does that look like if he's handed more responsibility?
I think that he can unlock a lot for them. Similar to how you feel like PJ Washington might be the swing guy, I think if Miles Bridges takes a step, that can do a lot because, again, you can build a lot of lineups around him at the 4 and be able to play out of it and keep continuity, but still have an impact on both ends. So I'm interested to see if he takes another step as well. I'm in a tough place with Charlotte. Like, I loved Charlotte last year. They're probably my favorite team to watch. And can they do it again? Can they take another step? Can they move forward? Or was last year kind of the surprise year and now they can't sustain that? Because their style of play is very fun and it's going to be tough for a lot of teams to deal with over the course of the season. But at the same time, it's a lot to maintain. And it's based on activity. It's based on rotations. It's based on stops, transition, pace. Can they execute in the half court? Can they win different types of games, different styles of games? So I'm kind of stuck in the middle there where I see the talent, I see the mindset, I see the culture. I used culture. What's wrong with me? I see what they're building, but now can we reproduce it? Can we continue to establish ourselves and take a step up? Or are the teams behind us going to maybe nip at our heels a little bit?
Right. One quick Charlotte question before we move to Miami. What is the Hornets' best lineup?
The Hornets' best lineup to me? Well, the one I want to see is small. So I want to see PJ at the 5. I want to see Bridges at the 4. And then I want to see Hayward, Rozier, LaMelo.
Okay.
And then secondarily would probably be Oubre in there instead of Bridges. But I think it's going to be that. So Mason Plumlee is going to do some things this year, folks.
He's going to throw some passes. He's going to get dunked on at least twice.
Come on, man. We're not doing Mason Plumlee slander.
Like, he's fine. Like, I don't really have any ill will towards Mason Plumlee. Olympic gold medalist Mason Plumlee in the yesteryears. But yeah, when I'm thinking about Hornet lineup stuff, like, I found it, I'm intrigued with like 7 guys for 5 spots. So, like, I kind of want to see the jumbo lineup with them. Like, give me LaMelo, Oubre, Hayward, Bridges, and Washington, and just switch everything. Or maybe you run a zone with that group and just get out and run. Yeah, that's probably the 5 I want to see the most. Like, I don't know if Borrego's going to go with that, but I want to see it. Just a bunch of 6-7+ guys getting after it.
I think he probably will. I think we're going to see some funky, weird lineups that work. He's not afraid to throw some things out there. And you mentioned the lack of center depth. We made that. I think that's the only issue would be the small ball lineups go from a luxury to we have to do this. And that's not as ideal.
Yeah, that's the thing about them not having another veteran big off the bench to give them kind of that lineup versatility. Because again, like it's Plumlee and then good best of luck. So I don't know. Would have been nice for them to add something there while they wait for Kai Jones to get ready. Because again, like I believe in Kai Jones long term. He's just not a year one guy. So it would have been nice to have a gap filler there. Anyway, we now move to the Miami Heat, who finished last season with a 40-32 record. They were 18th in offense, 10th in defense. Kyle Lowry is in tow. PJ Tucker is in tow. Goran Dragic is gone. Precious Achiuwa is gone. Kendrick Nunn, who is now suddenly a lockdown defender, according to Laker fans, which is interesting. He's now in Los Angeles along with Trevor Ariza. Andre Iguodala is back in Golden State. Steve, how much does Kyle Lowry impact this half-court offense for the Heat?
Impact the half-court offense. He impacts the team. He had such a massive impact just being Kyle Lowry, like not even doing anything crazy other than just being himself. I think one of the things that he adds value-wise, obviously the defense is huge. Point of attack, being able to navigate screens is huge. That allows your scheme to not have to hold so much, not have to give so much help. That helps. You can switch him on different guys. He's got good weak side help rotations. We know what he can do on that end. And then I think his ability in transition to just consistently make the right play, to push the ball with pace and help them get easier baskets, that's key for Miami. They're able to score off stops. This team looks different. They're not consistently in the half court. It's not always a dogfight. I think obviously being able to make the plays off the bounce, be a playmaker, make shots, get the team organized. I just love what he brings to the table. And he just hasn't had to it's not like one of those things where it's like, oh, Kyle Lowry did this, this, and that. No, he's just literally just playing basketball. And it looks different.
It does. Like his game fits the skill set of both Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo almost to a T. I wish, again, it's just preseason basketball, but I wish I would have seen more of a sample of all three of those guys on the court at once, just to get a better feel for what it's going to look like. But on paper, it just makes sense. Like in pick and roll, he's going to be a godsend for Bam Adebayo. Just his level of physicality as a player, like the inverted pick and rolls with him and Jimmy Butler are going to be there late in games. Like I imagine he's going to be screening for Jimmy. We're going to see some screens for Bam. We saw, going back to the first Hawks game in preseason, we saw Kyle Lowry screen for Bam at the top of the key. So that kind of versatility is there. Just the level of randomness that Kyle Lowry can inject as a guy that grab a defensive rebound and push the break, get an outlet in transition, push the ball ahead. In the half court, a guy that can screen, can cut. If someone else pressures the rim, he's relocating all over the place. You can't keep a body on him consistently. I think that's going to help a half court offense that was in the mud for most of the year last year for Miami. And to your point, what he does at the point of attack, he can actually play drop defense if they want to now, in which they really couldn't afford to do so last year because they just didn't have the guys that could stay attached over screens or keep the ball in front in general. It's great that, and we talked about this on the pod a little bit during last season, it's great that Bam Adebayo is so good on the perimeter that you can afford to switch him out. But it also got to a point to where they had to go to a switching scheme and they had to have Bam basically 25 feet from the basket on most possessions just because they couldn't stay out of rotation if they didn't. And so having a guy like Kyle Lowry that can fight over allows them to play more conservative defensively. And as the Heat, the Heat's defense was top 10 last year, they gave up a large percentage of threes last year. I think that number can come down since they won't have to your point, they won't have to help as much as they did last year.
You mentioned wishing you could see more from their top guys together. I saw a lot in the one time they played, and I saw a lot on the defensive end. Those four guys, Lowry, Bam, Jimmy Butler, and PJ Tucker together can cause havoc. Mm-hmm. And I'm very interested to see which direction they go with because that's tough. I think PJ Tucker, his ability to plug in rotation-wise for this defense, I think is going to be huge. Just the positional upgrades of just rotations from him and Lowry is going to make a difference for this team overall. And I can't wait to see it. My favorite part of that potential starting lineup is Duncan Robinson just mastering the art of denying. Like, nope, whatever you're trying to do, you don't do it over here. Go anywhere else. Like, nope. Go ahead and cut that door. That's fine. You want to set a screen? Nope, I'm right here. We're not doing this.
It's gonna be a fun defense. Like this Heat team, if they're healthy, they have top 5 defense upside for me. But Lowry can do it at the point of attack. What Jimmy Butler does on and off the ball, particularly off ball, like he's one of the best off ball defenders on the planet. Bam Adebayo could do a little bit of everything. PJ Tucker, even at this stage of his career, is still a good defender and a guy that can handle a multitude of assignments still. Also, having Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker on the court at the same time, like they're both going to rate like top 5 in charges drawn, right? Are we just penciling that in?
Yes, it's probably going to be obnoxious at some point. People are going to start yelling at the Heat for it. They also probably get a technical foul at the same time, yelling at a ref one time. I probably predict both of those things.
Yeah, what was it? Was it the second game of the preseason in which a ball went out of bounds and a coach? Oh, it was the Rockets preseason game. In which
Steven Silas, I think, caught the ball, and Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker almost lost their minds at the exact same time.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this team is going to annoy the heck out of folks. This is going to be fun to track. What's the next step for Tyler Hero in your eyes?
I don't necessarily know if there's a next step to me. I thought it's more recovering the good things that he did than anything else. I think if he goes back to making the right plays, making the right reads, and not forcing the actions, he's going to look a lot better than he did at times last year. I think he's going to have a more consistent role. I think he'll have a more consistent base, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a leap outside of him just doing what he does well better. I don't know if we're going to get a new Tyler Hero in that sense. I just think it's him taking his time coming off screens, reading the defense, not predetermining the play. On my pull-ups here, engaging the rolls here, the skips here, continuing to make those kind of reads to where now he's having an impact consistently, as opposed to just going up and pulling up, even though that's not there, or trying to drive and make a play, even though that's not there. Because now all of his actions look forced and he's trying to play his way out of it. And so it's more just getting back to being solid and letting his talent kind of grow that way, as opposed to, hey, he has to do X, Y, Z. He's got to go out there and play.
Okay, that makes sense. I would say Tyler Hero just absolutely lit up in preseason. And again, it's preseason. But an efficient 22 a night is not anything to sneeze at, especially with the year that he just came off of. Very
Cops
up and down
for Nekias. The hashtag is big convict.
I don't like this bit at all.
Maybe you're the big boss man, Cobb County, Georgia. You never know.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm not even. Brilliant. Like, I think that was an ambulance first and foremost. But anyway, one thing that stood out for me, like, he's very much stronger than he was. And one of the hidden joys of Hero season last year, again, very up and down affair for a multitude of reasons, but he did get to the rim more last year. He did get to the free throw line more. He did finish better. So for him to kind of expand on that by adding strength to the frame, he looks even more comfortable getting downhill now. And once you add that to what he brings as a jump shooter, the floater is there, has basic pick and roll chops in terms of passing ability. Like, he is a guy I think may be ready to spearhead a bench unit now in a way that he wasn't last year. And that's encouraging, one, because that means he's better. But two, if he's ready for that role, and he may not even have to fill it, depending on how Spo staggers his top three, because exists a world in which you can always have at least one of Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo on the floor at once. So, like, Tyler Hero will never be the primary focus of a defense. That is not going to be fun to deal with for a defense, I feel like. I think Hero is ready, maybe not for a leap, but like, I think he's very firmly going to be in the 6th man of the year race this year.
Oh, wow, you're very high on Tyler Hero. He was Tyler Villain last year on the pod, and you're high on Tyler Hero. How many Miami Heat pods did you do this week? Let me check real quick.
Wow. I did one did one Heat pod. Shout out to the good folks at 5 on the floor. But no, like I think he's going to be in the 6-man of the year race. Like I think the scoring chops are there. The passing chops are there at a high enough level to where he can make defenses pay. The fact that he's gotten stronger should help him on both ends of the floor, really. I think this is going to be a pretty solid bounce back year for him.
I would much prefer he just becomes a more solid version of himself than trying to do all that so Jimmy Butler doesn't cuss him out again this year.
Fair enough.
Oh, here it is, our first one.
Oh, come on, man.
Put it on the bingo board, folks.
Boo.
We got a plug in the first 5 minutes, and I got a fair enough. So we're on track, folks.
Wow.
Link in bio.
I don't like this narrative at all. Are you worried about Miami's front court depth? Because I am.
I mean, their backup center is Dwayne Dedman, so yes.
Wait a minute. We're not doing Dwayne Dedman slander.
Facts only.
Wow.
It depends on how they maneuver things. It's a very Miami front court type deal. Depends on how much you like Markieff Morris in general. It depends on if KZ Okpala can exist. Oh, that was a sad. Okay, I see where we're going here. I was going to ask you, how's it feel that a Martin twin is looking a little bit better than KZ Okpala?
You're getting a lot of joy out of this, huh? This is incredible.
I was just asking a question. I think it's fair. I think the Dunkers would just like to know how you feel about that fact. You know, he was in the starting lineup of a game. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I would say as a stockholder of KZ Okpala Island, I guess, it's not looking great. I wish he had something he could get to consistently on offense. And it's a bit alarming that he doesn't have that yet. Good for him for Mr. Caleb Martin, I guess, who had some flashes during the preseason. Cool. I don't know. You are really getting a kick out of this. This is incredible.
Yeah, I am. Not gonna lie.
Wow,
that was fun. I'll change the subject though. I'll move it on. We'll keep it moving. Duncan Robinson attempting to do things off the bounce. How important is this development?
It's pretty important for him. Like we've seen the development over the last year and a half. Like he was, again, one of the best shooters on planet Earth when he broke out into the scene. The next year, teams started playing him more aggressively in those dribble handoffs and stuff. It's like, okay, let's run him off the line. Let's see if you have any kind of counter. The slip pass came for him. If it wasn't an all-out trap, he would pump one dribble pull up, maybe 2 dribble pull up, and this seems to be the next evolution for him. Now he's just taking dudes off the bounce, apparently, which is, I need to see more of that before I fully believe in it. But like, if that's the next step for him, I don't know what you do at that point. Like, if you just can't run him off the line at all.
Well, I mean, if he's just going to try to make plays off the dribble, like not even just like, pump fake, shot fake, 2 dribbles, or, dribble handoff, 2 dribbles. Like if he's going to catch and then try and go.
Yeah.
That's different because now you have to worry at least a little bit about, he's going to try and drive. And then that reopens up the relocation that teams had kind of figured out as far as the pass and catch action with Bam and those type of deals. I've liked the mindset as far as, hey, I'm coming off a screen. I'm actually going to take a couple dribbles and see what happens, just as opposed to, come off one dribble, hand back, try and cut back off again. Like this, let's see if he can string that out. I'm intrigued.
I am also intrigued. Like I am it's going back to the Rockets preseason game in which he catches the ball like 28 feet from the basket. And again, like wasn't a pump, didn't look for a handoff to flow into. Like he just caught it, drove 2 dribbles, he's at the rim, contested finish, gets it to go. And I'm just like, wait, if he's doing that, and like he's already the guy, obviously like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and now Kyle Lowry are the best offensive players. But like at least for the last year plus, like Duncan Robinson has been the guy that's forced the most defensive attention just with his shooting gravity and stuff. If he's able to add to the on-ball shots on top of that, like it's kind of the Joe Harris type leap for him as an on-ball creator, to where like now it's not just attacking closeout. Now it's actually I can do some stuff and keep the chain moving. It just makes him a more dangerous player, makes him a more dangerous weapon. It's going to make it harder to keep him off the floor. One of the questions I was asked on the pod that I did with 5 on the floor, I'll spin it to you. Like, if we are to assume that Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo are on the floor to close out games, who are the other 2 players you're putting out there around them?
I think it's PJ and Duncan.
PJ and Duncan. Is Duncan over Tyler Hero for you?
I think in theory, yes. Unless you have a scenario where Tyler has it going and you can, in theory, play him and Lowry together, because Lowry can guard more positions than in years past. But I think you're going to see that 4 on the floor. See what I did there?
I'll give it to you. That's pretty solid. That's pretty solid.
Just because of their defensive ability and the trust. Now, obviously, injuries could make things different, but I think that those 2 will probably alternate. I'm surprised. Like Markieff Morris is such a Heat player. Like he plugs right into the Heat formula, a veteran guy that everyone forgot about, and now he pops.
I have my concerns about the Markieff Morris signing.
It's because you don't like fadeaways.
Is that it, or is it he just isn't very good?
No, we're not praising Dwayne Dedmon and destroying Markieff Morris on this podcast.
I think Dedmon's a better player than Markieff Morris. I don't think that's a take at all.
I'll let you have that one.
Okay. How do you feel about Max Strus?
I'm interested to see if he can contribute off the bench and do that consistently. Not exactly what he did in Summer League, but hey, can he be a guy who gives you some effort defensively, makes some shots, gets some handoffs, has a little impact, comes off? Can he do that night in and night out? Or is it going to be an inconsistent type deal where, hey, one night you can't trust his defense, one night the shot making's not there, now you're unsure? So I think he has to put a stamp on his role early. I think the same with Gabe Vincent. I think there's a great opportunity for both of them to contribute off the bench, but they're going to have to go out there and take it.
I feel that. I'm more confident in Strus than Gabe Vincent at this point. Like, both in Summer League and now during the preseason, like Max Strus not only shot well, but did so in a variety of ways. Like, got it off the bounce, came off screens, got it in transition, above the break in the corners, relocated when necessary. He's not afraid to shoot at all. Got the shots up. Averaged nearly 8 3-point attempts during the preseason. I think he's ready. I think the defense is more the question mark than the offense for me at this point. I mean, the defense was always more of a question than the offense, but like I think he's firmly going to be a good shooter this year. So now it's just, can you hold your own enough to contribute a consistent 14, 18 minutes a night off the bench? Gabe Vincent, I like the point of attack defense. I just don't know what else I like about him right now, because the shot just has not translated to the NBA. If you could pencil him in as like a 35% 3-point shooter, then I'm just like, all right, cool. He will hold down the fort until whatever version of Victor Oladipo comes back in January or whatever. But since the shot has not translated to NBA basketball, like we've seen it in spurts during Summer League, we've seen it during the Olympic run. I just need to, if the 3-ball falls, he's a different player. But it just hasn't. So I don't know how to feel about him right now.
I think he's in the solid defender guy phase. of his Heat path. I do like the point about Strus. I think if he is able to continue the shooting, he now becomes someone you can run a lot of different actions for off the bench, which can help with the movement of that lineup, which will be key for Miami because they need that lineup to do something. So I'm intrigued. I'm worried about Miami's bench in depth, but also Miami kind of gets the benefit of the doubt from me 90% of the time when it comes to that, because they can find a combination of people who probably didn't make sense, and all of a sudden it works.
I guess Markieff will have to be that guy this year.
I had a joke, but I expired on my KZR politics.
Wow.
Bam Adebayo. Is the aggression there? Because that's the first thing that's popped off to me this preseason. There's been limited hesitation. Are you pleased with this development? Do you think it needs to happen? Do you want to see more of that? Where are you at?
The aggression has both been there, but it also feels a little underwhelming to me. And I need to make sure that I'm not underwhelmed just because I have the Boston game in my mind. I don't want recency bias to kind of skewer what we saw from Bam in the preseason overall, because there was a lack of hesitation there that I welcome and that the Heat will welcome and that Heat fans will welcome. But I also look at the Boston game from this past Friday, in which there are possessions in which he was guarded by Romeo Langford and he's looking for passing outlets. He's defended by Grant Williams and he's taking fadeaways. He's defended by Jabari Parker before he got waived and he's taking fadeaways. And it's like, bam. You are 6'9", chiseled, can jump out of the gym. You've been a high free throw rate guy your entire career. Put the guys that are smaller than you underneath the basket. Why are you leaning on your jumper right now? And so I've seen improvement, but it seems like a very clear pathway for him to be better at it. And there are still these gaps that he's failing to fill right now. So I'm still keeping an eye on what that's going to look like this year.
Is he a top 10 player?
Okay. This is what we're doing. I feel like you've been waiting on the Heat section all pod long. You just want to get the KZ takeoff. You want to get that joke off. That's beautiful.
I told you, big Ben Simmons energy.
Yeah, okay.
Let me go get my hoodie and my phone.
Oh, brother. I don't like this at all. Man, just another lineup question, because I've touched on a little bit. Like, how often do you think we see Jimmy Butler at the 4 this year?
That's a good question. I think it depends on the level of play from Hero, because that could be a closing lineup. You could have Bam, Jimmy, Duncan, Hero, and Lowry, and hurt teams offensively and hope you can do enough defensively. That's going to be the big question for me. Is that something they throw out there? I don't think it's going to be something they lean on. But with the front court depth, with the potential lineups you can throw out there, it's more how can they get to it than will it be effective. Because if you're putting yourself in a position where you have two guys that the defense is now looking, or the offense is looking to attack, it's a little bit different than previous years. So I want to see how much that pops.
Like, that's the lineup that I want to see the most, honestly. And if you believe in the defensive growth from Duncan Robinson over the last year or so, like, that's a lineup that Spo could lean on a little bit more, or could lean on, period, if he does believe in that growth. I am with you. Like, if I had to guess, it's going to be PJ Tucker and then one of Duncan or Hero to close out games, just because he's going to want that defensive infrastructure there. But I don't know. Like, I do think that's ultimately their best 5.
That I also changed my math if Victor Oladipo comes back healthy and looking like the Oladipo that he was starting to look like in Miami last year. That's a little different.
It gets fun at that point. A potential closing, like, if you just want to go all defense with Lowry, Oladipo, Butler, Tucker, and Bam, that's tough to deal with.
That's a playoff lineup right there.
That is, in fact, the playoff lineup. All right. Let's go a little further south if I have my geography correct. Let's move to the Orlando Magic, who are coming off a 21-51 season. They were 29th in offense, 26th in defense. Are you concerned about Jalen Suggs at all?
No. Mainly because this is a great opportunity for him minutes-wise, or at least it should be. And I think it's an opportunity for him to showcase a little bit of everything, which he does well. And I don't think there's going to be as much playmaking pressure on him with the other players that they have, with the system they have, with the pace they'll try and run with. So I'm not necessarily concerned about him. It's going to take he's going to have some growing pains. I would say probably similar to Cole Anthony at the start of his rookie campaign versus Cole Anthony towards the end of his rookie campaign. It's going to look unfinished at times, but I think because of the opportunity and because of the belief they have in him and the playing time he'll get, we'll see development. And I think he'll get more comfortable. He has the effort to pop early, but I'm not sure if one thing is going to necessarily jump off the page.
Okay. And I asked that because, again, I feel like I've thrown out this caveat like 12 times during this podcast, like preseason, you have to take with a grain of salt. But like, there was a level of, what's the best way to phrase it? Like, he didn't look comfortable in the half court during preseason at all. And like, one of the things that stood out to me early in this summer league stint before he got hurt was like, he seemed a lot more comfortable getting to his pull up. That looked better. And being able to mix that in with aggressive drives and making reads from there, like that was a positive sign for me. And during the preseason run for him, at least, like it didn't look like, it wasn't very fluid for him. So that's why I'm just kind of like, all right, what is this going to look like year one? Like nothing about his long-term projection, but just how is he going to look in this context in Orlando in year one? And I was wondering if you had any level of concern there.
No, I'm not concerned. You
Okay.
want to see the growth and development. I think he's on track to have a solid rookie year.
Okay. Just want to see where you were on that. Do you believe in Mo Bamba?
Does Mo Bamba believe in Mo Bamba?
Hmm.
If he can stay on the court and he can get minutes, we've seen him produce. We've also seen him foul 5 times in 3 minutes. So I just want to see, is this the opportunity for him to actually get real minutes and really see what he's got in the tank? Or is it going to be Robin Lopez handoffs and jump hooks?
Like, I feel like we're going to see a steady dose of Robin Lopez handoffs and jump hooks anyway.
I love Robin Lopez being on this team, by the way. It just feels so incredibly random. Like, of all the veteran talent to add, you have all this young talent. And then, there's Robin Lopez and Gary Harris, Terrence Ross. It's a very weird mix.
It is a very weird mix. Robin Lopez had to be closer to the mascots and such, so I understand. He had to be near Disney so he could attack some of the. Anyway, different thing. Mo Bamba looked good during preseason. For whatever you want to put into that, like the jumper looks pretty solid. The mobility and the activity defensively was there. I don't know about experimenting with Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr. minutes at the same time. Like that seems like a lot. But I'm intrigued. It would be a nice story if Bamba could put it together. Like I have not been kind to Mo Bamba on the podcast because he just hasn't been very good throughout his career. Well, I would like to see him turned around. Go ahead.
That's a concern I have with the Magic, by the way. How do you fix your big rotations? How do you find room for all these guys? Do you want to do Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter Jr., Wagner all together at the same time? How do you keep Chuma involved? Like you still have Robin Lopez. Like you have technically 3 guys who play the 5. You have probably 3 or 4 guys who play the 4. And now, do you want to go small? Do you want to go big? How do you balance that? Is what I'm interested in, because in theory, Carter Jr. can roll, Bamba can space. In theory, how much do you want to do that? And does it help either of them?
It's a good question. And like Orlando's roster is just like, one, it's bad, but like it's just so weird because they have a bunch of guards that warrant playing time in terms of talent or just organizational investment. They just drafted Jalen Suggs. Markelle Fultz is coming back at some point. You have Cole Anthony. You have RJ Hampton. You traded for Gary Harris. And then in the front court, you got to see what you got in Bamba. You just gave Wendell Carter Jr. an extension. Robin Lopez is good at basketball. You should probably pay him. Chuma Okeke is someone that you should invest in because he's really good at basketball in the front court. Jonathan Isaac's coming back at some point. Like, it's just the roster balance is odd. And I don't know how Jamal Mosley plans on balancing that at all. I want to see what the line, like their version of small ball could be 3 guards and 2 centers. It's the Cleveland issue with worse talent.
I was just about to ask that. We talked about this with Minnesota. We talked about it with Cleveland. Is this just a weirder fit? Because you mentioned it. And don't forget, I mean, I think Michael Carter Williams was a return at some point.
Yeah.
Isn't E'Twaun Moore on this team? Like, how do you where are you gonna get the room to get the most out of these guys? Because you're probably gonna want to lean on Gary Harris and Terrence Ross at some point, but you also need to make sure you develop Cole and Jalen Suggs. Can they play together? RJ Hampton's moving in the right direction, but ... I don't know, man. How do you feel about Wagner? You like Wagner?
Which one?
The good one.
Which one? No. I I like Franz Wagner. He's gonna have to shoot the leather off the ball to make the stuff around him work, which he is a good shooter. Like, I oddly like Orlando's defensive potential. Like, I don't think they're gonna be like a top 10 team or anything like that, but like I think they're going to annoy teams in the half court. If for no other reason than they're just gonna have a lot of length on the court for the most part. Wagner's going to be a decent sized chunk of that. Like, I think he's going to be good defensively for a rookie. But again, it's just like he's not really an on-ball guy, not at high volume anyway. And so he's going to need guys to create for him. I worry about him being the best shooter in the lineup a lot of the times. And again, like Jalen's still trying to figure out the pull-up stuff. Cole Anthony getting to the rim and finishing at the rim is an adventure. So, like, he's not the guy that's going to draw a bunch of attention. I don't know when Fultz comes back, but when he does, like, teams are going to duck under him. So I don't know where that's coming. Like, I wonder about the quality of look that Franz Wagner is going to get this year on the perimeter. Because, like, why? What reason do I have to help off of him? Like, who scares me offensively on that team?
It's going to take a lot of movement, a lot of handoffs, probably a lot of switching on the other end. It's going to be interesting. I like his juice, though. I like the way he plays. More important for Wendell Carter Jr., being able to switch defensively or being able to roll and finish offensively?
I think it's rolling and finishing offensively for me. Because at some point, like, I would just like him to have a consistent role offensively. Because it doesn't feel like he's had that at really any point of his career. Like, he's been a handoff hub guy. He's been a post-up guy, which has not worked out for him at all. He's been a screen and roll guy. He's been a pick and pop guy. Sometimes he has the green light to take 3. Sometimes he doesn't. I just want something consistent. Like, I don't necessarily want him pigeonholed, but I would like for him to know what his base is offensively, if that makes sense. And so then he'll have something to build off on, because in theory, there are a lot of things that Wendell can do. Like, I do think he can roll and finish, maybe not at an elite clip, but he is a solid finisher. He is a guy that can pass and short roll. I would like to see more reps in that front. And again, with Orlando, I don't know who's drawn to the ball. So, like, I don't even know how much we're going to get to see that showcase. But yeah, if he can really solidify himself as a high-level finisher and pick and roll, like, that gives him something to build off of. So I'll go there.
I'm intrigued to see if he can take another step. I think he felt more comfortable and confident in Orlando after getting away from Chicago. And now it's for me, it's more the opportunity. I was very excited about the opportunity. I still think he'll get the lion's share of the minutes, but what role will he be used in? Is he going to be a hybrid 4-5? Are we going to get consistent rolling, screening, handoffs? Is he going to be able to develop a base like you stated, or is he just going to still be Wendell Carter Jr. and be good, but not necessarily have this thing he brings to the table every night? Cole Anthony's shot making versus his shot taking. What do you think?
Well, he's certainly going to take a lot of shots. I don't know, man. Like it's too early to be out on Cole Anthony, but like I don't like his fit on this team at this point. Cause like I think at best he's like the third best guard prospect on the team behind Suggs and healthy Fultz. So from there, it's just like he has to become a tremendous shot maker to kind of make it worth it from an investment standpoint for me, just because, and like some of that isn't even his fault. It's just the way that Orlando has built out this roster. But it's also just like at a certain point, if I'm forced to go with a 3 guard look, why would I not go Suggs, Fultz, and Hampton and get a little bit more size out there?
Wow. So you're completely out on Cole Anthony.
I'm not out on
but this man's still making a Maladona thing.
I don't like this. I don't like the narrative you're trying to set up here. No, like I don't think I'm out on Anthony the player. It's just like adding Jalen Suggs to the mix makes me like the fit for Anthony in Orlando. I like that a little bit less now. It's less about him. It's just like, okay, what's the hierarchy now? And like, what's his path to success?
I think the hierarchy is clear. He did declare Orlando his city last year. So
does Orlando know that?
Yeah, I mean, he said it to them. Game winner, Memphis.
But does management know that?
I think so. I think they're aware. HR filled them in.
Then they drafted Jalen because he's better at basketball.
I want to see if he can balance taking those shots versus creating plays. I know he has the ability to, but can he read to know when to take it, when to make it, when to put pressure, just kind of flipping it so he's not just a pull-up guy?
It'd be nice to see, but good Lord, is the backcourt jumbled now. So we'll see. Like, I'm going to be tuning into Orlando just to see what Jalen, well, not just, but like I'm going to be tuning into Orlando games to see Jalen, see what the steps are there.
You're tuning in for Okiki. Okay.
That's awful. That is awful. You should feel bad about what you just did. But yes, I'm absolutely turning in for Chuma Okiki. Hey, Okiki, question for you. Like, what's the next step for him heading into year 2? What do you want to see from Chuma Okiki in year 2?
More playing time. That's it. More playing time, bigger role. See what he does with it.
You're sold on him as the multifaceted forward that can do a little bit of everything. Just give him more reps.
I'm sold on the opportunity, but now he's got to do it with less talent around him. So I'm interested to see how he pulls that off.
I'm ready for more of the Okiki Wendell Carter 2-man game that we saw flashes of in the second half of the year. Just the largest dribble handoff duo in the league at a certain point. Should be fun. I probably have a different definition of fun than some of my listeners, but you know. I like watching.
The kid can hoop, man. He showed an aggression. Now he's got to replicate it. You got to take another leap.
Best of luck to everyone in Orlando. Like I wish they have pieces that I like. They have vets that I like. But the issue is that they're all on the same team. And now it's just like, what do we do to balance? Like, why is Gary Harris here? I don't know what to do with that. This is such a weird team.
Neither do they, I don't think. But, Aaron Gordon trade.
I guess they had to get why not make that a 3-teamer if you could and just make okay. Anyway, the Washington Wizards are the last team in alphabetical order.
Breaking news, by the way.
What we got?
Via Shams on Twitter, Daniel Gafford, 3 years, $40.2 million.
Oh, that's right on. Daniel Gafford got, you said 3 years, 40 mil?
Yes. Daniel Gafford got paid.
Okay, so a little bit over 13 mil a year. Okay. Daniel Gafford's getting Rashawn Holmes money. That's interesting.
He proved it. I thought he was great for the Wizards last year.
He was very
great rolling, great defense, and I like that they committed to it and said, "Hey, you're the guy." I like that. Find something, make it work. Salute to him. I also like the Wizards entirely more than I think anyone else, and more than I should.
Okay. Let's roll with that. Why do you like the Wizards more? Do you think?
I fell for the pump fake. I watched too many Wizards preseason games. Every year, I always fall for a team that has veterans. And I guess the Wizards are my team this year. I just like the versatility. I like the pieces they have and the roles they are in here, if that makes sense. Like, you can say what you want about Kuzma, Montrez, KCP, but there's going to be more freedom for them to literally just be themselves. And so what does that look like with less pressure to necessarily do the little things, or, you have more opportunity. Like, I thought Montrezl Harrell looked like himself again, rolling to the rim in the preseason. I thought Kyle Kuzma looked more aggressive while still maintaining some of the little things that he had excelled at with the Lakers. I think KCP, obviously, he is who he is, but, you can run movement with him. You could space. Dinwiddie has looked pretty good. I just think they have more options than before. And the bench worries me. Bench worries me. I'm sure you're going to talk about the defense here shortly. But I like what this group could be if they put it all together.
Yeah, I worry about them putting it all together because I'm worried about the defense. I just do not see a pathway to this being a good defense. And they have pieces. There are lineups they can get to that can defend. Like you just mentioned, KCP, he's a guy that can still defend at a solid level. Kyle Kuzma can defend both forward spots. Like, they have guys, but man, they don't have a lot of them. I just think the point of attack is going to be a mess. Like, I just don't think Spencer Dinwiddie can hold. Dinwiddie's just not a good defender. And I think the statute of limitations on giving Bradley Beal that, hey, he proved that he can defend when he tries. Like, I think that has expired at this point. Like, he's back in prove it to me mode, honestly. Like, the playoffs with John Wall was a long time ago. So I just want to see more from him on that end. And then just the interior in general, like, it's Daniel Gafford, and then if he's not on the floor, then who is it? Like, Thomas Bryant is not a good defender. Montrezl Harrell's not a good defender. Like, I don't want to completely rain on the Washington Parade, but I'm kind of raining on the Washington Parade. Like, I need to see this team defend.
Kind of. I mean, there's no room for umbrellas. This rain came quick.
That's my concern. Like, I see the pathway to them being like a play-in team is the offense just blitzing people. And, like, it wouldn't shock me if that happened.
No respect for their head coach and his defensive chops.
It's less about that, but, like, at a certain point, your personnel is your personnel.
Hey. I think there's going to be a little bit of an emphasis. I think they'll have a little bit more activity. I think they'll be more solid. I think Gafford can do some things. You got Hachimura, you got Kuzma, so you have more options size-wise to defend people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be defender of the Wizards guy, but
I mean, somebody has to.
Well, I mean, I think, the problem is the defense is going to be so important because if this team can get out in transition, it looks a lot different. So they can play with pace, they can play random, they can get out and run and get some of the easier baskets. Now that opens things up. That gives them a margin for error. They can set up their half-court defense. They have a shot. So it's going to be, obviously, can they do it consistently? But I like the pieces. I'm not going to lie. I like the pieces.
They have solid role guys. I just worry about them putting it together to the point where the defense makes sense for me. Like, that's just kind of my through line with them right now. Also, is Davis Bertans going to hit shots this year? Is that a thing that's going to happen?
I mean, he may not be asked to do as much as he had before, but I would say yes.
I hope so. But that contract's going to look awful if he doesn't. Because that is all he does.
Wow. I'm interested. I'm so surprised you're not high on a team that has multiple guys who can drive and get in the paint, since one of the most used phrases on the podcast was rim pressure last year.
Yeah. They have guys. Again, like, I think the foundation, the pathway to Washington being a play-in team is this team is the 7th best offense in basketball or higher. And that starts with the rim pressure of Spencer Dinwiddie. That's Bradley Beal getting downhill. That's Rui building on the season that he had last year, provided he can stay available, getting downhill. Like, I think that's what the violent rim rolls of Daniel Gafford, operating as a vertical spacer, Montrezl Harrell filling the same kind of role. Like, that's your pathway. There are things to like about the team. Like, I'm not completely out on Washington as an institute. Well, that's a different podcast. I'm not out on the Wizards as an institution.
Oh boy.
But like I'm not out on the Wizards institute. Like, I really worry about the defense.
I'm assuming you were talking about Washington State football there, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Get Mr. Snyder out of there. Get Mr. Allen out of there. Anyway. Yeah, like I really worry about that defense.
All right. So you're out on Washington. Got it. Hey, I don't know what else there is there. I like the roles. I like the ability to have guys off the ball, move KCP and Beal, Dinwiddie off and pick and roll, space the floor, multiple lineups. Rui Hatchet mid range coming back.
Did you slip Rui Hatchet mid range in there?
Denny Avija year 2.
I like Denny.
Not as much Raul Neto. This seems like a plus for Washington. Sorry.
Wow. Why is Neto getting slandered? Like, he was fine last year.
Raul Neto's great, but he shouldn't be guarding some of the people he was asked to guard last year.
Well, yeah, the defense stunk. And now this year, they have better pieces, but I still don't think the defense is very good.
All right. Rank them.
All right.
This man is circling the block on the Wizards.
Look, man, I'm just trying to. Okay. Ranking the teams in the division. You want me to go first? I think for me, it is. I've been going back and forth from Atlanta and Miami all weekend.
This is very interesting, folks. We've got some narratives at play. Heat Nation has been pressuring the great Nekias, but he is also Mr. ABO. I'm very interested to see where this goes.
Oh, okay. I don't know about that. I think Atlanta, Miami, Washington, Charlotte, and Orlando will be my 5.
I had Miami, Atlanta, Washington, Charlotte, Orlando.
Okay. So just swap the 2 at the top and you have consistency in the rest of the division. All right. Very cool. Who are your top 10 players in this division?
Number 10, Spencer Dinwiddie. Number 9, Gordon Hayward. Number 8, Clint Capella. Number 7, John Collins. Number 6, LaMelo Ball. Number 5, Kyle Lowry. Number 4, Bradley Beal. Number 3, Bam Adebayo. Number 2, Trae Young. Number 1, Jimmy Butler.
Okay. That is what the people in the business like to call a solid list. I am going to go. Butler's one for me right now. I'll go Trey 2. I'll go Bam 3. I will go Beal 4. Lowry 5 for me. I will go Capella 6. I feel like I could just fill the rest of this list with Hawks, honestly. I'll go LaMelo 7, Dinwiddie 8, Hayward 9.
I was about to say, now we see how he tries to get Gordon Hayward off this list.
Come on. No, we got Hayward 9. Ten as a Hawk, but I just don't know which Hawk it is.
Did you put John Collins on the list?
Oh goodness, I completely blanked on John Collins. Okay,
what a save!
That's what you did. I was about to have some angry Hawks fans in my mentions. Completely blanked on John. I was like, I know there's a Hawk that I'm missing here.
This man was about to say Terry Rozier.
I was not about to say Terry Rozier. Okay, well then, I would probably say, I'd say Collins after Dinwiddie, and then just slide everyone down a slot from there. And that'll be my 10. Do we want to do some standings predictions for the NBA season?
Go ahead, man. You are the man with the plan. You were on a hot streak, successfully predicting the Milwaukee Bucks as NBA champions. The people need to know. The people have to know what the next pick is. What do you and Perk have cooking up?
I hate the way you framed that, but I'm going to leave that alone. Anyway, this is how I see the East shaking out right now. In regular season standings. So keep that context in mind. I have Brooklyn as the top seed in the East, Milwaukee 2, Atlanta 3, Miami 4, Philadelphia 5, Boston 6. Those are my 6 playoff teams. The 2 play-in teams that make it in, I think the Knicks at 7, Chicago at 8. And from there, Indiana 9, Washington 10, Charlotte 11, Toronto 12, Cleveland 13, Detroit 14, and Orlando 15.
You went all the way through.
I went all the way through, yes. You do not have to, but I did.
About to say. Where'd you put the Bulls?
I have the Bulls at 8.
Interesting. I'm going to attempt this. The only danger here is I forget the division rules, so hey, get mad at me if you want.
Fair enough.
Got the Nets 1, Bucks 2. I have the Heat at 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Hawks not at 4. I do have the Hawks at 4. I have the Knicks at 5.
Okay.
And then at 6, this is where it gets interesting.
We got Boston, we got Philly, we got Chicago. You have your Wizards.
Philly.
Okay.
Put Boston at 7. No, put Chicago at 7, Boston at 8.
Okay.
Who have I forgotten? I've forgotten somebody. 9, let's go Wizards.
Yeah. Okay. And your final play-in team is?
My final play-in team. Drum roll, please. The Hornets.
The Hornets. Okay.
No, the Wizards. I already said the Wizards, didn't I?
You did say the Wizards already, yes.
Raptors.
There we go. Shout out to our Toronto listeners. Okay. All right, give me your 10 in the West.
My 10 in the West. I have Utah 1, Phoenix 2. Lakers 3. Division winner has to be top 4, right?
I think so, yeah.
Memphis 4.
Hmm.
Denver 5. I don't know why you made me do this for the pod. Dallas
Feet to the
6.
fire.
Golden State 6.
Okay.
Dallas 7. Portland 8. And this is where I get stuck. Clippers 9.
Okay.
Pelicans 10.
Okay. So you're not worried about Zion missing the first few games of the season?
Spurs.
I knew you wanted to get the Spurs in there somehow. This is incredibly on brand. Okay, so I have right now Utah at 1, the Lakers at 2, Phoenix at 3, I have Denver 4, Golden State 5, Dallas at 6. I have Portland 7. I have the Clippers 8. I have Memphis 9, and I have Minnesota at 10.
Wow. Minnesota
at 10.
I think how's your top? I like it. Minnesota at 10. Okay. Who'd you drop?
I think the Spurs were a play-in team last year. I don't have the Spurs in.
No belief in the Spurs. I can't wait till they become the internet's favorite team 2 months in.
It's gonna be great. I have guys that I like on the Spurs team, as you very well know. But like, man, I just really worry about the half-court offense. I just don't. I don't know how they score enough in the half court to be a playoff team in the West.
Is there a way for Golden State to get in the top 4? Or no, not in that division?
I don't think. Like, do you think Golden State's going to be better than the Lakers or the Suns?
That's the tough part.
Like, I don't see it. Not in the regular season, at least. But I could argue, like, you play the matchup game in the playoffs, that they could be better than one of those two teams, depending on how they work during, like if the Lakers don't figure it out with the offensive fits and stuff, like Golden State might have a higher ceiling, something like that. I don't know. I can't get there. Who's your MVP this year?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Okay. We're on the same page there. Who's your defensive player of the year?
Rudy Gobert.
I have Bam. Who's your rookie of the year?
Cade Cunningham.
Okay. I also have Cade. Who's your most improved player?
Michael Porter Jr.
All right. I have OG
slash Kevin Porter Jr. It's going to be a Porter Jr.
It's going to be a Porter Jr. Okay. I got you. I have OG Anunoby. Who is your sixth man of the year?
I was going to say Jordan Clarkson.
Oh, don't make me angry on the podcast.
Derrick Rose.
Okay. I have Patty Mills with an asterisk because I have no idea who Brooklyn's going to start.
What do you mean? It seems pretty obvious who they're going to start.
Does it though? Because like they experimented with some bigger lineups, like some actual James Harden at point guard lineups in the preseason. We don't know when Kyrie's coming back.
All you got to do is take a shot at the depth chart.
Okay. You know what? That is incredible. I'm just gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna spring one on you before we close this out. Who's your coach of the year?
My coach of the year?
Your coach of the year.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, it's got to be Taylor Jenkins if you have Memphis at 4.
No, I just have them winning the division. I don't know the rules, so that might be dumb.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Monty Williams.
Okay. Since I appear to be higher on Boston than you do, I have Ime Udoka.
Okay.
And that's where we kept things all up. One more for you. What's your finals prediction?
My finals prediction?
Your finals prediction, yes.
Right now, Nets Lakers.
Okay.
Nets in 6.
All right.
Can't wait. What do you got? Bucks Jazz? What we got here?
You know what? I was very heavily debating Bucks Jazz. I do have the Bucks coming out the East. The West is throwing me for a loop.
If you go rematch here,
I'd like to, but like
didn't you write a piece for this on basketballnews.com?
Maybe, allegedly, probably. I'm gonna go Bucks Lakers right now. I don't feel particularly good about it.
This may be the Lakers part.
Yes. I'm more confident in the Bucks coming out of the East than the Lakers coming out of the West. Between Kawhi maybe getting healthy by the end of the year and Jamal Murray coming back at some point, I think one of those two teams has a finals run in them. The Lakers have a lot to figure out. They have a lot of star talent. They have a lot of lineup stuff to figure out.
Cannot wait until Rondo and Westbrook spark a run in the playoffs.
Oh, that's going to be awful. That's going to be awful for me specifically. I don't know if I want to.
With AD and Dwight and at the same time.
Bro, if we see Rondo, Westbrook, Bron, AD, and Dwight on the floor at the same time, I'm calling the police.
Nah, you're going to see Rondo, Westbrook, Melo, AD, and Dwight. What are you going to do about it, bud?
I'm also going to call the police. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Duncan Spot. Yes.
Oh, I was just scratching my face. Please continue with the outro.
Oh. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Dunker Spot. Please subscribe to us if you haven't already. We are on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. You can find me on Twitter at Nekias NBA. You can find Steve Jones Jr. at Steve Jones 20. And with that, we will catch y'all later.
Did Ben Simmons' phone fall out of his pocket?